watch my favorite educational TV show, Gary? It's really good. Not that one. Ugh.
And right now at Menards, an additional 11%.
I hate this guy. Here we go.
Welcome to Winter Part 2. Temperatures have been well below zero this week, and I thought it would be a good time to check in on the fascinating world of the subnivian zone. And we'll learn about some of the interesting creatures and predators. You know, as you study science, you'll come across lots of words that you have no idea what they mean. For example, subnivian. Where did that come from? Well, in order to understand subnivian, we're going to need to have a little help, and that means I need to find one of the rarest creatures there is. In fact, I know of only one in St. Paul, and I just found it. I'm talking about a Latin teacher. A Latin teacher. I'm sitting in the office of Central High School Latin teacher, Mr. Rick Lay. Mr. Lay, can you help us understand what subnivian means?
Subnivian is two Latin words put together to make one English word. There's sub, which means under or underneath, and nivea in Latin means snowy. And so when you put them together in English, it means under the snow. If you needed to ask me any more questions about Latin, I would be happy to answer them. Let me write my number down for you here, just a second. You can call me anytime. Here you go.
Roman numerals. That's rather presumptuous.
Presumptuous. That comes from the Latin verb presumo. Sumo is to like take up, and pre is before. So it's when you take something up before you have all the facts.
Yikes, I think I need to make a quick exit.
Exit. That comes from the Latin verb exire. Ex means out of, and ire means go.
Well, I really need to get going. Adios, Mr. Lay.
Adios. That one that got into Spanish from the Latin ad deos, which means toward the gods. Toward the gods.
Well, as my over-helpful neighbor just pointed out, Latin is the basis of a lot of words in the English language and in other languages. In fact, Latin America is called so because the people of that region speak Spanish and Portuguese, and those are Latin languages. They're very similar and are derived from Latin. So if your teachers are giving you Latin words to memorize, remember, they can be very helpful in school. They might help you in a career in medicine or science, or they can be really useful in studying world languages. Time to dig into the subnivian zone. So when you're out in the woods or in a field, underneath that snow, there's a lot of life. And in fact, it's a great place for mice and voles. What advantages are there to living under the snow? Well, for one, it's harder for your predators to see you. And surprisingly, the temperatures are quite a bit warmer under the snow. Let's see if that's true by designing a simple experiment. I took 2 cans of sparkling water and drilled a hole in each can and inserted a temperature probe, much like what you use at school. I put the cans in some warm water on the stove so I could get the temperature a little bit higher. It was about 108 degrees when we started the experiment. I then picked the coldest day so far of the year, Super Bowl Sunday, and I placed one of the cans on the sidewalk with nothing around it. The other can went into this pile of snow. I buried it and then came back to check on it regularly. I made a graph of the data. You can see the blue line is representing the can that's under the snow, and the black dashed line is the can that was in the air or on the sidewalk. What's interesting is when I first started taking the data, the can under the snow cooled down more quickly. You can see the line drops faster than the other line. And that's because snow is cold. It conducts the heat away from the can, while the air is a relatively poor conductor, and the can on the sidewalk is losing its heat through the process of radiation, which is a very steady decline in temperature. So it doesn't look like the subnivean zone has a big advantage until we get to about 15 to 20 minutes, and you can see the temperatures of both cans are the same. Beyond that point, once the snow has melted around the can that was under the snow, once there's an airspace all the way around it, you can see that the snow is actually a good insulator. The temperature does not drop very fast. In fact, the line starts to flatten out with very little decrease in temperature. If you think about it, this makes total sense. The Inuit of the north have made their homes out of snow for centuries. You can make a fun approximation of an igloo by simply piling up the snow, letting it sit overnight, then digging it out, and forming walls that are about a foot thick. And you'll have a cozy shelter in your own backyard. Beware though, if the temperatures get above 25 degrees, it could collapse. Scientists have found that the subnivean zone can be as much as 30, 40, or even 50 degrees warmer than the air outside. Mice and voles have a high metabolism, and by eating food, they produce a lot of body heat. They'll stay nice and warm under the snow. Mice and voles are the primary occupant of the subnivean zone. What's the difference? Well, it's actually pretty easy to tell them apart. A vole's body is stockier, has smaller ears, and smaller eyes, and a shorter tail. In Minnesota, there are 14 species of mice and voles. So I'm going to be focused on 3 of the major predators of the mice and voles. One is the fox, another is a mink, and the third is the weasel. The red fox is one of the most successful mammal species in the world. They have very acute or excellent hearing. They use that hearing to locate the mice under the snow. And so they don't give any warning. They'll make graceful leaps into the air to target the mice. Dogs are very enthusiastic predators of mice and voles under the snow. But as you can see, not as graceful, precise, or successful. Mink and weasels are in the same family and have many similarities. They have long bodies and bound over the snow. Mink are quite a bit larger and will eat a wider variety of food. One of the cool things about weasels, though, is they turn white in the wintertime. Weasels are smaller and have thinner bodies. They can actually fit down into tunnels pretty easily. Both have voracious appetites and will kill more prey than they can eat at one time, often stockpiling the bodies in their dens. Well, it's time to head outside and to see if we can find any signs of the animals we've been talking about. Mink, fox, and weasels are all very shy creatures. But because of the snow, we might be able to find where they've been. I always like to go out after a snowfall, before people and dogs have walked all over everything, and you can find some pretty interesting things. All right, time to burn some calories and head out. Here's something cool right outside my house. It looks to me like a fox walked down the sidewalk. Now, how do I know that? Because a fox and a dog look pretty similar, and their tracks might be similar too. But here's how I know. When a dog walks, you'll see the back foot come about right here, Whereas a fox, the back foot lands in the same spot where the front foot just was. Watch carefully and you'll see what I mean. As the front foot leaves, the back foot steps right into the track. So you get this nice line that looks like single tracks. Here's a good example of dog footprints. You can see the front and the back foot. The front and the back foot, they don't make the nice single line like the fox tracks. So I hiked over by the river bluff to see what I could find, and I went off the trail, and I came to a really great spot right on the edge of the bluff. And I found these footprints in pairs going along this log. I immediately thought that these could be mink tracks. As they bound across the snow, they leave pairs of footprints, their back feet hitting almost exactly where their front feet just left. Finally, if you get a really good print, you can tell it's a mink or a weasel by the fact that it has 5 toes, as opposed to a dog and a fox having only 4. Once I knew that there was mink in the neighborhood, I started looking around more closely. This is the field where I found the rusty patch bumblebee. It's loaded with lots of tracks of foxes and mice, and also mink. When I followed the mink tracks, I came to lots of places where they've been digging trying to get at the mice and voles under the snow. In fluffy snow, mink can travel under the snow easily. But the snow here is pretty hard and crusty, so they had to do a lot more work to try to get to the mice. And this particular one, I'm going to put my hand in, goes a long way down and turns the corner. So all through here there are tunnels of mice and voles. And I'm not sure how successful this mink was, but we'll keep looking to see if we can find any more interesting sign. Well, I didn't make any other great discoveries that day, but I'm looking forward to the next snowfall when I can be an animal track detective. And who knows, maybe I'll even find a place where a mink has slid down a hill. One of the things I love about teaching is when I learn new things, I start to notice those things. For example, 30 years in this neighborhood, I had never seen mink tracks. But once I started to look, I found them pretty easily. They probably always have been here. Mink and weasels and foxes are very common animals. But since they're shy, you really have to look for them. And get outside in the wintertime after a fresh snow and you might be surprised at what you find right there in your own neighborhood. Well, until next time, have a beautiful day.